What if I told you that dowry, the system we blame for countless societal evils in India today, was not even part of ancient Indian culture? In fact, eyewitness accounts from ancient travelers reveal that a completely different story. One where dowries never existed and women had robust property rights. So, how did we get from equality to exploitation? Let's uncover the fascinating history of dowry in India. Welcome back to Sadhana Sutra India. Today we are diving into origins of dowry system, how it began, how it differs from empowering concept of Stridhan and what ancient texts and travelers tell us about Indian marriages before dowry became a norm. By the end, you will see just how drastically things have changed over the time. We will also explore the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, crimes associated with dowry, and whether the laws meant to protect women are being used fairly. Stick around, and this one is important. Let's get started. First, let's define dowry. Simply put, it refers to the goods, cash, or property that a bride family gives to the groom and his family as a condition of marriage. While this practice is now heavily associated with South Asia, dowry did not originate here. The first known mention of dowry comes from Babylon. In present day Iraq, the Code of Hammurabi, the world's oldest legal document, described dowry as an established custom. So, how did this foreign practice make its way to India? In ancient India, dowry was unheard of. Let me explain why. During the Vedic era, women enjoyed significant rights, including property rights. When women married, their wealth did not automatically transfer to their husbands. In fact, encroaching on even a small part of women's property was considered a crime. The concept of stridhan, meaning a woman's wealth, empowered women. This included gifts like jewelry, clothes, or land that a woman received during her lifetime. Unlike dowry, stridhan was entirely hers to control and was often a financial safety net in the times of need. And let's take a closer look of two fascinating eyewitness records that give us clear picture of ancient Indian marriages, both of which emphasize on the absence of dowry. The Arian of Nicomedia, a Greek historian, documented Alexander the Great's conquest of India in his work, Anabasis of Alexander. Here's what he wrote about Indian marriages. They marry without either giving or taking dowries. Women, as soon as they are marriageable age, are brought forward by their fathers in public to be selected by the victor in wrestling, boxing, or running, or some who excel in any other manly exercise. This paints a picture of how society where marriage was based on merit, not money. The idea of dowry was as transactional element was completely absent. Fast forward to 1200 years to 10th century CE. Al-Biruni, a Persian scholar who lived in India for 16 years, observed the implements of wedding rejoices are brought forward. No gift is settled between them. The man gives only a present to wife that he thinks fit, and a marriage gift in advance which he has no right to claim back. This shows that even in medieval India, the groom would offer gift to the bride, a concept closer to what we might call bride price or voluntary gift, not the oppressive dowry system we see today. But here's where it gets interesting. Dowry did not evolve uniformly across India. Let's break it down regionally. In northern India, societal hierarchies and caste dynamics played a significant role. Marriages being patrilocal, that is brides staying with groom's family, marriages became tool for cementing alliances. Dowry emerged as a display of wealth and status. Over the time, these voluntary gifts turned into mandatory demands. In contrast, in many South Indian and Northeastern communities historically practiced reverse dowry, where the groom's family compensated bride's family for her role in continuing the lineage. For example, the Nayars of Kerala followed a matrilineal system and wealth passed through women. Grooms would often move into bride's household. Other matrilineal and tribal communities across South India and Northeast also followed similar practices. However, as patriarchal norms spread, these systems faded and the concept of dowry took the hold. So, how did dowry take roots in India? The shift became during medieval period and solidified under British rule. Colonial laws stripped women of direct inheritance right, leaving families with no choice but to offer dowries as financial security for their daughters. But what started as a safety measure soon turned exploitative. By the time we reached 20th century, dowry had become a tool for greed used to extract wealth from the bride's family and often at the cost of their financial ruins. The consequences of dowry go far beyond financial strain. The practice is linked to horrific crimes including dowry deaths. Women are burned alive, poisoned, or murdered for failing to meet dowry demands. According to National Crime Record Bureau, over 6,000 dowry deaths are reported annually in India. Domestic violence. Women who fail to bring sufficient dowries often face emotional and physical abuse or are thrown out of their marital homes. Skewed gender ratios. Dowry is a major factor behind India's alarming gender imbalance. Families fearful of financial burden of a daughter's marriage often resort to sex selective abortions. India has a law that bans dowry, a practice punishable by imprisonment and fines since 1961. Yet, shockingly, studies reveal that nearly 90% of Indian marriages still involve dowry. So, why does this illegal practice persist? Is it driven by tradition, greed, or societal pressure? And are laws doing enough or even being misused? Let's uncover the complex truth behind why dowry still exists in India. Economic growth between 1940s to 1980s India experienced with rising incomes came in heightened expectations and dowry payment grew as a way to showcase wealth. This might sound crude, but grooms with better jobs, education, or societal status are often seen as higher quality. Family demand higher dowries to match these so called qualifications. Women, especially in rural areas, are often pressured to offer their inheritance as a part of dowry. This is not only robs them of their rightful property but also reinforces the idea that marriage is a financial burden. In 1961, the Indian government passed Dowry Prohibition Act which made it illegal to give or take dowry, demand dowry or even advertise dowry. The act also requires couple to make a detailed list of gifts exchanged at the wedding to ensure transparency. But here's the catch. The laws is rarely enforced effectively. Social norms and the fear of damaging the bride's reputation prevents family from reporting dowry demands. While laws like Dowry Prohibition Act and IPC aim to protect women, there's a growing concern about misuse. Let's take the recent case of Atul Subhash as an example. He claimed to be falsely accused of dowry harassment, leading to a heated debate throughout the India whether anti-dowry laws are being weaponized. This raises critical questions. Are dowry laws stringent enough to deter genuine offenders, or are they so broad that they are prone to misuse? Should we focus on stricter enforcement or completely reform the laws or make it gender neutral? If this video gave you a fresh perspective on dowry, don't keep it to yourself. Share it in the comments. Share your thoughts in the comment and join the discussion. Let's challenge the outdated tradition and reclaim the empowering heritage of India once upheld. This is Ashwarya from Sadhana Sutra reminding you it's never too late to rewrite history, but the change starts within us because marriage isn't about transaction, it's about transformation.